Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the VPET Connex 2017. This morning, we're going to continue our STEM journey by having Mrs. Birgit Thoman to talk about STEM and their relevance for vocational education and training in Germany.
Mrs. Thoman is head of Department of Internationalization of Vocational Education and Training, Knowledge Management, Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training of Germany.
She is also an appointed member in an expert committee on education at the German Commission for UNESCO and lecturer at the Technical University of Darmstadt. Please welcome Mrs. Thoman.
Dear Excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, a warm welcome, good morning, and I'm happy and honored to be invited to this very inspiring, very well-organized conference, plus the additional taking place competition on skills. And it's my first time to be in your city, and I really appreciate for the invitation, and thank you very much for hosting me. So maybe one word to the BIBB, the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training in Germany. We call it in German, we call the BIP, but I'm well aware that BIP means something different in English. So in the English context, I prefer to talk about the BIBB. So it's a national center of competence for vocational education and training. When I say vocational education and training, in our philosophy, I always imply initial training and continuing training, because for us, this is always the pathway. And we are governed by federal law, so there is a Federal Vocational Training Act, and this law gives us different responsibilities. For instance, we do research and development on vocational education and training. We modernize and we develop the national standards for in-company training. We are doing this together with the social partners, we call in Germany, and social partners, when I use the word, I mean the trade unions as well as the employers' organizations. And we also support the government in international cooperation and internationalization of VET. So the Institute comprises around 630 staff members. It's structured in 5 departments, and I have the privilege and honor to run and head one of these departments. So I was asked to present the relevance for STEM in the German VET system, and I like to do it, and I like to understand it as an invitation for sharing experience, as well as also a starting point maybe for further cooperation. And when I use the term STEM, you should also be aware that this is not a term actually we use in German language. We use the term MINT. So MINT does not mean to us peppermint, but it means mathematics, information technology, natural sciences, and technology. So you see, this is synonymous, and I will maybe use both terms in my speech synonymously. So this is the preludium, and let's start and go to the first slides. Okay, this is just the content, how I'd like to introduce. And I'd like to start with some introductory remarks on the German VET system. And I think this is refers very well to what was presented to you yesterday by Professor Oertle, because the Swiss and the German system of vocational education and training, they are very close, and they share a similar understanding and philosophy. So also our system has been tried and tested for many decades, and it's in the meantime internationally recognized for being able to meet the demands and the needs of the labor market. So, and I think by this it also contributes to the mere fact that youth unemployment is currently in Germany at around 6.6%, and this is a figure much lower than the international average, or also the rate in the European Union. VET in Germany is mainly characterized by the dual system, though there are also certain occupations that are trained in a school-based way, but the majority are dual-based apprenticeships. And this training combines the vocational training and the school-based teaching. So the school and the company, but clear emphasis is given to the work-based training in the company. And we also use the word apprenticeship. So the idea of our apprenticeship is that it has several objectives. On the one hand, it has to educate, it has to achieve social and socio-economic integration, and it also shall, and last but not least, it shall give you the opportunity to learn an occupation during a period of 2 to 3.5 years in a very holistic way, in which the apprentice will finally be able to act in a very comprehensive and very professional way. So, in a nutshell, the dual system in Germany can be described by the 5 characteristics shown on the slide. It's, on the one hand, learning within the work process. This means really 70% of the learning takes place as work-based learning in the companies. So the task of the vocational schools instruction is to supplement this company training with theory and to consolidate also the trainees' general education. Another point, the acceptance of national standards. So there exist national, occupational, as well as national training and assessment standards. They are important to our mind in order to ensure that in-company vocational training is recognized equivalently throughout the country, not being irrelevant whether you do it in the northern part in Hamburg or in Bavaria. They all shall lead to comparable qualifications and improve employability, mobility on the labor market, and also the social acceptance of vocational education and training. Because as an employer, you can rely on the certificate as a national standard, and you know at least the minimum of material and competences that the apprentice has learned during his apprenticeship. Qualified vocational education and training staff, also for us very important. On the one hand, the teachers in vocational schools, but also the trainers and instructors in company. They carry out education and training. So both should have a comprehensive professional qualification. This meaning technical as well as pedagogical qualifications and skills, knowledges, and the trainers in companies in Germany are certified. So we have also a national standard, a kind of, we call it an ordinance on a trainer's aptitude. And the companies who train, at least somebody in the companies must have this certificate, this ordinance on trainer's aptitude, in order to prove that he's qualified, well qualified as a trainer. The institutionalized research and career guidance. So research on vocational education and labor market developments for us is key in order to be able to adapt our system continuously to the needs of technical and social and also economic developments. So this implies also vocational information, career guidance, and being part of initial as well as continuing training, and strengthening and fostering mobility and employability. So, and as a kind of quintessence, I put the cooperation between the state, the private sector, and the social partner in the center, or at the heart of our understanding. So on the one hand, it's a precondition as well as a crucial element of success for all other features mentioned previously. So together, those stakeholders, they set a framework for vocational education and training, and this comprise shared funding, the development and the implementation of national training regulations, and the assessment and certification of competences. So this whole arrangement of dual VET in Germany, tried and tested, as I mentioned, is based on 3 preconditions, and I think they are worth to be mentioned. On the one hand, the willingness of the companies to invest in vocational education and to accept national standards and quality control of their training activities. Secondly, the willingness of the public sector to accept the private sector as an equal partner. And thirdly, the attractiveness of VET to young people. And this is something we continuously have to strive for. So let's continue regarding STEM in Germany. So to the German economy and its successful performance, qualifications and competences in the field of STEM are of utmost importance. So it's somehow the USP, the unique selling point, and it's based to a great extent on high-tech applications in the manufacturing industry. To companies belonging to this sector, STEM qualifications are essential to remain successful competitors. What's more, there is always also empirical evidence that there is a positive correlation between innovations occurring and the staff with qualifications that can generate and trigger these kind of innovations. So given this understanding, STEM is not merely an additional topic for vocational education and training. Rather, it is imminent to the German VET system and key to its success. A shortage of qualified employees in the so-called MINT occupation is putting, of course, Germany's reputation as a center for research and business at risk. So, in Germany, this slide shows you that 7.5 million people are employed in a STEM occupation, or were employed because the figures belong to 2015. This is roughly a quarter of all employees. The majority of 4.6 million people are 61%, and they are skilled workers with a craftsman or a journeyman certificate. This is what we call in the German language the Facharbeiterabschluss. This means that 6 out of 10 STEM employees are those with successfully completed vocational training or apprenticeships. STEM occupations comprise, and I think this is also worth to know, comprise a huge variety of profiles. So there are more than 100 training profiles reaching from the hearing aid acoustician to the toolmaker. And most of these persons, more than 80%, they work, in fact, in technical professions. So the T in STEM or in MINT, this T gets specific importance in the German example. Many technical occupations, they enjoy an excellent reputation and are very attractive in terms of career development and remuneration, particularly when further training is included. So, shown by this slide, it relates to a study on vocational further training. The majority of persons learning a technical profession in the dual system plus successful further training. I think this is very crucial and very essential. They can expect annual salaries that are almost comparable to a Bachelor of Sciences annual salary. But despite attractive salaries and excellent career opportunities, STEM occupations need to be promoted because despite all those good developments, excellent developments, they cope with a certain image that reduces their attractiveness to young people and in particular to girls. So this is an interesting result of a study done by a German foundation, the Körber Foundation in particular. So according to the findings of this survey, young people link STEM jobs with less attractive working conditions. For instance, they think that it might be loud and cold during the work, that the work might be dangerous and unhealthy, and that they will have hardly any contact with other people. But the chart also shows that these negative anticipations on your left-hand side do not correspond at all with the working experience of most of the apprentices in STEM jobs. This is the right column. But they have the effect that a number of young people affiliated to science and technology refrain from taking up a STEM occupation, and that in the long run, less people might opt for a vocational career in a STEM profession than it needed by our companies. So career guidance and internships in companies are the most important factors that influence or can influence the decision of whether to take up a technical-oriented apprenticeship. For around 60% of apprentices in STEM occupations, and the chart shows that this experience is for females even more important than for their male colleagues. So for around 60% of apprentices, this is the internship in a company was really pivotal to their final decision. So it should be in the mission of schools and companies to strengthen their bilateral ties. Internships in companies in Germany, of course, they are integrated in secondary schools, including grammar schools. However, the preparation as well as the follow-up of the internships could be improved. Coherence of the practical learning during the internship with school teaching is still low, and substantial career guidance is rarely offered to young people, so that additional supporting structures are really needed and are established by the Federal Ministry of Education and Research. For instance, they established a program on vocational orientation, BOP. This funds what we call potential tests. Potential tests are the initial assessment of predispositions and competences for young people, school pupils at the age of 13, 14, and later on they have the possibility to have 2 weeks workshops in which they can familiarize with at least 3 occupational fields. And as the following chart shows, there is a certain gender bias in VET occupations and their beginners. Obviously, in many technical professions, female apprentices are still underrepresented. So if you, for instance, I present to you now on the next slide the 10 most popular occupations requiring an apprenticeship in Germany by gender. These are the next two slides. And you see a big difference between the profession that are chosen by males and the professions that are chosen by young women. And males, so these are the females first. So you have the top list is office manager, medical assistant, sales assistant. And if you compare these to the males, you see the young boys, they opt much more for technical occupations, motor vehicle mechatronics, electronic technicians, industrial mechanic, and so on. So there is still, even in the 21st century, there is still a gender gap, and less women opt for a technical apprenticeship. And we did a lot of really supporting instruments, supporting measures, so that at least the figures, for many years they were around 10%, now they rose in the last years, but slowly but steadily, I would say, so to 12% female apprentices and 15% female employees in STEM professions. So you see, even in this century, 21st century, women in technical professions still have to cope with social bias and certain type of stereotypes. So we know that vocational choices are highly interdependent from social approval and acceptance, so it's still necessary to encourage young females to choose a STEM profession. So young women, I think they need to be supported in their self-confidence and backed also in their plans when they are considering starting a professional training in a STEM occupation. So in this respect, instruments as the annual Girls' Day as well as female role models are still needed also in the future. So regarding the future development, I just like to skip to the macro level. So the crucial question for us really is whether a lack of skilled labor in STEM professions can be predicted for the labor market in Germany. So due to demographic developments, we face the situation that quite a number of experienced employees will soon reach the age for retirement. So in 2015, almost 1 out of 3 employed in STEM professions already reached the age of 15 years and over. So this is the generation, what we call in Germany, the baby boomers. So, and they are about to retire very soon. And so this might lead to a demand on the labor market. And this demand might no longer be matched by young people interested in qualifying for many professions. So employers already attest a gap in the supply, and just recently in May, last month, they claimed that companies lack about 237,000 qualified persons in the technical field. However, and these are the figures published by the German Employment Agency last year, these figures show that currently there is no general and no comprehensive lack of STEM experts in Germany, as the number of apprentices and graduates still excels the number of retirements. So this is mainly due to a growing number of university graduates in MINT professions. And additionally, we observe in the German labor market an increasing percentage of also foreign workers in MINT professions. So they are all contributing to secure skilled labor. However, there might be a need for skilled labor, in particular in the middle management, in the technicians and master craftsman level. So it could become quite crucial, and I think this is a need for special attention and additional support. So this is a chart deriving from a BIP projection. This shows that a growing number of students will result in an increasing percentage of university graduates regarding MINT professions. So this is in particular ISCAT level 5A and 6. At the same time, there will be a smaller potential and a smaller percentage of vocationally qualified specialists. as I already mentioned, the technicians or the master craftsmen. This is the ISCAT level 5B. And this is due to the demographic trends and the educational shifts to economization. The percentage of skilled workers, ISCAT level 3B and 4, this remains quite stable according to our projection. So, and I was also asked to at least say some words regarding digitization and 4.0. So in the next 10 years to come, of course, the digitization and the increased use of technology might have a strong impact on the labor market. And if I use the term digitization, I refer to technical innovations, including robotics, Internet of Things, and also the cyber-physical systems mentioned already in the morning. So for the German labor market, the Boston Consulting Group, they predict employment in the scope of up to 390,000 new job opportunities by 2025 due to digitization and Industry 4.0. But this development will also be accompanied by a growing demand for so-called soft and cognitive skills, because they need to complement technical know-how and expertise. And at the same time, the need for mere manual labor and routine skills might decrease. Additionally, almost all occupational profiles will become more and more demanding and sophisticated. Key qualifications regarding how to integrate and apply digital technologies in professional work will be of a kind of more general, more cross-cutting relevance, and will also be transferable to other sectors and occupations too. So first examples of how 4.0 is influencing the world of work are shown by this slide. So, for example, in drones applied for roof inspections, or in the use of 3D printer and scanner in the preparation of dental prostheses. These developments, I think they need to be uptaken, of course, by vocational education and training. The computer will be an inherent part of the world of work. For young people, it means, of course, to learn and to integrate new things during their apprenticeship, and this needs, of course, to be reflected in curricula and training standards. So we are doing currently research on the impact the digitization has on training standards. So we want to check whether it will demand new other core competences, and that need to be then imparted during the apprenticeship. So the development of systemic thinking might be of utmost importance, as well as the ability to take up complex issues quickly, to act and react in a responsible way, and also, very important, to learn how to intervene in the event of serious incidents. So, no doubt, digitization has an intense and rapid impact to our economy and our society. It presents a challenge to company, maybe also a menace to certain work processes that could be done in the near future automatically, but it can also lead to new job opportunities and augmented competences. This perspective will be a challenge for those who take up a job, but also for those who teach and train the VET staff personnel. So the digital change as such is, of course, not limited to STEM occupations only. But IT qualification will get more and more a transversal character in VET. They will be relevant in almost any occupation, and will probably lead to significant changes in the occupational profiles. Therefore, I think in the cluster of STEM subject, ICT skills and competences are taking a leading position in the meantime. What can be done to adapt to these changes in the most appropriate way? The general guideline we follow in Germany is to qualify and train according to national training standards that are very flexible and independent from specific technological platforms, and so allowing for additional needs of the companies. Secondly, continuous training and lifelong learning will become even more crucial. And thirdly, new importance will be given to personal and social skills and competences. So, in a nutshell, smart factories and Industry 4.0 will demand both specialists in IT, robotics, automation technology, as well as employees with more general, multidisciplinary and all-rounder soft skills. So, since the solution for any future challenge requires innovative thinking, the ability to develop new approaches by the next generation, so I believe that also early entrepreneurship education could be a crucial topic, as well as the integration of arts and creative thinking into the core subjects of vocational education and training. So I'd like to finish with an idea suggested already this morning by Mr. Shamal Majumdar to take up the idea and to enlarge STEM to STEAM, sorry, so I missed the point, to enlarge STEM to STEAM and to integrate arts into our future considerations. So thank you so much for listening. The time passed very quickly and I'm looking forward to your comments and questions.